Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake of
technology increased, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Master Connector Show. I'm your co-host, Rob Genovesi, and I want to thank you all for joining us today live every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on LinkedIn, and afterwards catch that recording on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But we'd love to have you joining every single week live. Number one, because it's engagement for you, not for us necessarily. When you're here live, you get to connect with us, with our guest, with the other people in the audience, because listen, it's the Master Connector Show. We want you to be mastering the art of connection. And to do that, you got to show up. You know, that was one of the greatest lessons I learned in networking was a long time ago when I came out of corporate, started my own business, had it going for a little while. And somebody said to me who was 3 decades in networking and business. And she said to me, Rob, if something's being put on, just go. You never know what's going to happen. So join us live. And listen, if you can't, we get it. But bookmark your calendar every single Wednesday. And also, we want you to go here, masterconnector.show, because you can see who's coming up on the roster. Maybe there's a guest you absolutely cannot miss, and you want to go there, find out who it is, bookmark your calendar. That way you don't miss us live, because guess what? You can get your questions answered here live from our guests, because we're bringing you amazing guests. And today is no different. Listen, you know, it is the Master Connector Show. And Steve, my buddy Steve and I, we go way back 27 years, 2 introverts, 2 former shy guys who've come a long way through learning the art of connection. In fact, my buddy Steve, he's selected to be a TEDx speaker. This is his first one. It's, you know, he's worked hard for this. Listen, you can join Steve live and direct and be there for the event in Houston, January 10th, 2026. His talk will be, get this, The Quiet Advantage, Why Introverts Out-Connect the Rest. Good news for you introverts. There's going to be 24 other speakers that day, so it'll be well worth it to be there in person. You know, I'll put the link in the chat, and you can grab your tickets for that. It's going to be phenomenal. So listen, I've talked about him. He is the Master Connector. Let's bring on Mr. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
What's up, Robbie G? Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's an honor. I was selected, and I know we got some cool news that we'll be talking about later about you as well. So appreciate you, bud. Well, what's going on, everyone? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And, you know, it's interesting. A question here for you guys. What makes a story truly transformational instead of just inspirational? You know, and one of the main reasons why I decided to not be called a motivational speaker, but more of a transformational, inspirational speaker. Actually, transformational. I like that even better. But no, it's because I believe that we have the ability to inspire people. And I believe more than anything, the most important thing on this planet, my job, my purpose on this planet is to make an impact. True success is not how many cars you have or how big your house is or how much money you make, but how many people's lives are better because you're in their lives. And true storytelling and is not about preaching. It's not about teaching per se, but the ones that are much more effective, the stories and the communication styles are when you speak with authenticity, right? When you have the ability to really speak from the heart and tell your story and be vulnerable, right? And not just, tell facts and figures. Logic does not move people, but stories and then the stories draw an emotion that really moves people. And, things that perhaps give people hope. That's why I talk about, Rob mentions it. We're both introverts, right? So for those of us that are a little bit, reserved, we have hope, right? I mention often that I'm dyslexic, learning disabled, right? So if you have those kind of challenges, you could do it too, right? It's great to have the ability to be able to, work around those challenges. So everything that we're doing, I believe, is ultimately about transforming lives and giving the ability to have that kind of hope. So If you're ready, you're going to hear some great things today. You're going to hear from our guest speaker, and I really believe she is going to inspire and motivate you and talk about a little bit of her story and how it's impacted her life and people around her. So if you're ready to bring my man, to have my man, Mr. Robbie G, bring on our guest, just type in the hashtag Let's Go, because we are LinkedIn participants, not LinkedIn lurkers. So get in the comments right now. Robbie G, I'll pass it to you.
All right, let's go. Dr. Elayna Fernández is a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, has been an influential storyteller and story strategist for over 20 years. As a student of pain and multiple trauma survivor, she's spoken on prestigious stages worldwide, including TEDx, the United Nations, and at the We Are One event with over 700,000 attendees in India. Through her blog, she's reached millions of people in over 160 countries. Dr. Fernandez is the best-selling author of Dancing with Death, Reflections from a Student of Pain, and the #1 international best-selling series, The Gifts of Pain. She's the creator of Story System for transformational storytellers, and her work has been featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, MSN, Entrepreneur Inc., CNN and Espanol, Good Morning America, and more. She's also been named one of the top Latina influencers in the U.S., top 125 impactful leaders, and a woman of influence by Success Magazine. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Elayna Fernández. What's up, Dr. Elayna? My gosh, all those credentials.
I was going to say, you're slacking, Dr. Elayna. Come on. You're not doing enough. You just got to pick it up. Pick up the pace. Come on now.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be with both of you. This is a true pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And it's great that I'm now going to join the ranks of being alumni on the TEDx stage with you. So appreciate that. You've been one of those inspirations for me on that. So appreciate you big time.
Congratulations. I am so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you very much. But we got a lot more to accomplish, right? This is just a step towards that. But a big part of our show is being authentic. And I know that might be a little bit of a cliche in today's times today, but listen, honesty, authenticity, being able to just, share vulnerabilities. I think those are all important, an important part of storytelling. So here's the question. So community, again, we appreciate everyone that's on here. I just want to shout out a few people. My sister, Eileen, great to have you on, Eileen. And she's thanking me, congratsing me. I appreciate that. We got Kristen on here with us. Kristen O, good to have you on here. And it looks like one of your connections, Annie Suarez, is on here with us. Great to have you on here. Annie, I'm hoping I'm saying your name right. So, but great stuff. Glad to see everyone here. But here's a question. So put in the hashtag community authenticity. And the question is, how do you tell a story that transforms hearts instead of sounding kind of preachy and self-promotional?
I love that question because that is truly what impact is all about, is to make sure that you're connecting with the audience and that you're telling your story in a way that is from the heart. And I have 3 ways in which I consider a story can be transformational. Number 1 is that it's impact centered. So we've heard those stories that are all about ourselves. And yes, definitely we're sharing a part of ourselves, maybe a moment in time, maybe a memory that really sparks something within us. But when we do it with the purpose of making an impact, it is something that truly stands out. And I think many of us have been at an event or even in our daily lives, because we're all storytellers and we all speak in stories. We have heard someone just talk, tell us a story, and we just feel like it doesn't connect and it doesn't resonate because we don't know what the impact is. So being impact centered, what is the impact of this story? Why am I sharing this story? And not only why, but why is it going to impact the listener? Why is it important to them? And so that's number 1. Number 2 is that it's trauma informed. And trauma informed means that you are actually considering the listener and being sensitive to their different sensitivities because we all have been through something. And so sometimes instead of inspiring, what we do is activate something very, very deep within them and that we cannot resolve. So we want to be trauma informed. And the third piece, Steve and Rob, are going to be about being culturally competent. If you're in China speaking to an audience versus if you're in India, like you said, I spoke to an audience, versus you're in the United States or in Latin America, you're going to consider your audience and what is their cultural background and what is their custom. So you are going to be more impactful when you are actually coming from the heart and thinking about them and not about yourself.
I love that.
Well, that's a whole lot.
Yeah.
But right on the money. And Dr. Elayna, it makes me think of when I was starting out in business and meeting people. And certainly I don't have the story you have, and that hopefully that'll unfold for people. And by the way, make sure you're checking out Dr. Elayna on LinkedIn and check out her website. It'll all be coming up. Just a phenomenal story. I only scratched the surface of it, but phenomenal story. Which brings me to my point. When I first started out, I didn't really know necessarily how to connect with people. But what I did was I told my story of how I came to do what I do as a brand builder. And it did connect with people because it connected with their problems. It was a story that they could relate to as I'm a human being, and this is how I came to it, how it became my passion. But what would you say to somebody who goes, I mean, look, Dr. Elayna, you've been through a lot and you've overcome and you're an inspiration. I don't have a great story, so this won't work for me. What would you say to somebody like that?
I appreciate this so much because one of the things that I am vowing to eradicate from our world is comparative suffering. And that is one of the tenets when I talk about pain. And of course, you mentioned the gifts of pain and dancing with death. So all of my work is really with the premise that pain is the common thread of humanity. This is what I talk about on a daily basis. However, if I think about the authors in the gifts of pain that are featured, we have 10-year-olds talking about a fear that they had in Taekwondo class. And we have people who have been through, being hurt by their family with sexual, financial, and all types of abuse. So it is a whole wide variety of painful experiences. And the universal message that I want to bring is that they are all valid, that they are all real, and that no matter what that was like for you, we have to honor our own experience. And so I know that you've probably seen my United Nations talk or my TEDx talk, in which I talk about the two experiences that shaped my life when I was 19 years old. And of course, by this time, I had already been through horrific experiences, growing up in a slum and growing up in a very violent environment, including in my own home. But at 19 years old, in March of 1996, don't do the math about my age.
I'm thinking, was that a few years ago?
Exactly, yes. But March of 1996, I was on my way to school from a gathering with my classmates, and I boarded a car thinking that it was public transportation. And the man who was driving proceeds to take me to a remote location, kidnap me, and brutally rape me, and almost beat me up to death with a baseball bat. So that was what happened when I was 19 years old. And like you said, a lot of people think like, oh my goodness, that's unimaginable. And yes, it was. I don't want to discount the pain that I went through and the blood I shed and the tears I shed and the screams I uttered. They are all very real. And this is not for people to compare themselves to my pain, but to feel compassion for the pain that we all feel. And so thankfully I was able to escape that situation, and I was encountered with a very, very sad reality, which is people wanted to motivate me, which Steve was talking about, rather than validate me. And so we want to validate each other's pain, not talk about the gratitude, not talk about the good things that are happening, but talk about no matter what that experience was, this big or that big, it's not about size, it's about the feeling.
Wow.
Yeah, I absolutely. And wow, you have come such an incredible way from experiencing that to the amazing lady that you've accomplished, and how many people you're inspiring. And you know, you referenced, in a way, the healing piece of this, right? And how, how important that is. And I want to just say, for me personally, I didn't go through that kind of stuff, but I had my own versions of pain, right? Being bullied, being, picked on, maybe it wasn't physically like you experienced, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, but it was a very emotional. Yeah, there was some physical. I got beat up. Yes. Yeah, I got some of that. So, but it wasn't to the degree that you do. But we all have our own. And I think, to Rob's point, I think, or his question, I think we all, if we really, really are honest with ourselves, we all have versions of pain that we can talk about. It's just not necessarily, it doesn't have to be traumatic, like majorly traumatic, like yourself have experienced. But I want to talk about healing. So community, type in hashtag healing. Here's the question, Dr. Elayna, excuse me. What does storytelling play in helping both the storyteller and the listener heal emotionally?
Oh, such a great question. Speaking of the comparison that we talked about, and you acknowledging your own trauma, I want to make a distinction that trauma can be a big T trauma or a small T trauma. Actually, trauma research teaches us that trauma is not an event, it's an experience. So it's not about what happens to you, it's about what happens inside of you. And usually it's because we don't acknowledge or have someone else acknowledge our pain. So what you did was huge, Steve. It's say, I went through my own type of pain, and these are the components of how that was painful. And so storytelling helps us with that, because we are able to actually process what we went through and to say, you know what, that was difficult, that was painful, that truly happened to me, and I am honoring that pain. It's not going to define me. That's what
Right.
we're usually afraid of, right?
That's
Like,
right.
I'm the person who was bullied, I'm the kidnapped girl, right? It's not a label, it's an acknowledgement. And so when you tell your story, especially through the story system, you're able to reframe what happened, not to discount it, to bypass it, or to dismiss it, but to find the gift in that pain. And
Yes.
and usually there's more than one gift.
Yeah.
And when you share your story with others, then they know that they're not alone, because the thing that we do often, and I've done it many times throughout my life, is that we suffer in silence because we think I have a big label and I'm the only one who's going through this. So emotionally, we can all heal through storytelling.
I love it. By the way, I want to welcome Yolanda Chin, who's an amazing member of the community here. And she says, when pain is dismissed or minimized, it often leads to shame or self-doubt. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very true. Kudos, Yolanda. So listen, there's so many good nuggets that you have said so far. So, I mean, I wish this is a 30-minute show. I wish we can go for 2 hours, because we'll probably just scratch the surface in 2 hours. But what you said before, again, on as being bullied, again, it didn't define me, right? I've learned from it. I've grown from it. In fact, the blessings from it is, I believe it was a major factor in me going on. You mentioned, I think, Taekwondo or something, martial arts, but I went on going to get my 4th degree black belt in karate and my first in jujitsu. And I think a lot of that was not because those bullies were still in my life bullying me, but it gave me the anger. I leveraged the anger of visualizing those people's faces and saying, in your face. You know what I mean? Like not physical. And I didn't never plan on going back and beating them up. That was not the case. I didn't, not at all. But I conquered it. I conquered it by like showing you. And I think also why I'm so driven in the business world and why I'm, always want to succeed was because it's like in your face. Like you thought I was a nobody, in your face. So anyway, I could so relate. So relate. So, but hey, Russ Hedge, welcome to the show. One of our incredible members of the community and also sponsors of some of our episodes. But let's keep this moving. This is the Master Connector Show, and I believe there's connection, right? And the reason I didn't want to be called the Master Networker, even though Rob and I belong to a community called Master Networks, I want to be called Master Connector because to me, connection, it's not just about how many numbers or names in your phone or whatnot, but it's that human connection piece, right? And so let's talk about community. Type in hashtag connections. And so here's a question for you, Elayna, Dr. Elayna. Why do emotional, vulnerable stories connect audiences more deeply than perfectly polished ones, if you will?
Ooh, that's so sticky. I love it. And I also believe that connection is so powerful. And I also want to take a moment to thank your sponsors and everyone who's joined us, because that's really what makes the show, right? So one of the things that I always say is that your audience, when you're talking to someone, is not themselves. You're talking to their inner child. Because research shows that most of our decisions are made emotionally. And they are usually made very, very spontaneously or impulsively, if you will. And what is the impulsive part of our brain? It is the amygdala, the almond-shaped little piece, a little network in our brain that controls all of our emotions. So when you connect with someone as in the simplest language, like a child would talk to you, that is what's most memorable, most touching. So usually we want to use big words and corporate speak, and that's really not how we talk to our best friend on the phone. Right. And so that is truly why we want to speak to someone as if they're our best friend. And I think that if you're in business, you want to work with your best friends because you want to help them. They already are that kind of person that you created. I mean, usually as entrepreneurs, we created our business to help them because we love them. So talk to them as someone you love, and that is going to definitely connect deeper.
Yeah, so I want to just reinforce to our community what you just said, Dr. Elayna, because sometimes people say things and it goes right through really quick. They didn't catch it. So I captured something you said, and you said, stop using jargon or corporate speak. You wouldn't speak to your friend on the phone that way. And it's so powerful because, as a brand builder, this branding and storytelling are interwoven. They're in there together. And as soon as you start saying jargon, people just check out. They can't relate. They don't know what you're saying. They're not in your industry. So stop with the jargon. And worse, stop using cliches. What Dr. Elayna is saying is be a regular person, or as a mentor, Steve and I always says, be normal. And one of the things I learned was, because I was not normal. I was not only shy, introverted, and scared to death. I was acting weird. And people were like, why are you acting so weird? I was be normal. And the way to do it was that I would look at you as if we were already friends, and I would speak that way. And I kind of crawled my way to that. So I wanted to point that out was, if you want to connect with people in a storytelling way, because my wife's like, oh, we have friends over. She's like, oh, he's telling another story. Because stories, like you said, Dr. Elayna, make the impact. But I always use regular everyday words so people don't feel like I'm talking over their heads or out of their league.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. I'll just piggyback off that. And Dr. Elayna, look like you're freezing up a little bit. But one of the things that I like to say is, before we start talking, business stuff and get into like all that, why not? Let's it's let's be on the sandbox and together and playing together, right? Like that kind of mentality, right? Instead of like, because people know they like to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And the challenge is, unfortunately, people want to go right to business side. So we lost the link, Dr. Elayna, but hopefully she'll join us in a moment here.
I remember when you were talking about that, and I don't know who said it a long time ago. They said, when the kid in me and the kid in you like each other, you're already off to a good start, right? Because I think at the end of the day, Steve, you and I both learned that it's not how professional you come across.
Yeah.
It's how friendly and amiable and that you come across to people that endears them to our side.
Yeah. The same mentor you're talking about would say you want to be like an old shoe with people, right? Where they just, it's old comfortable shoe where you just like feel comfortable around them, right?
Yeah.
But Rob, I just want to, while we're waiting, hopefully Dr. Elayna will come back, but I want to acknowledge Ari is in the house, and thank you for joining us here. And then nice kind words from bless you, Russ Hedge as well. And so Dr. Elayna, I'm glad you're back with us here. We were missing you. We were building filler right now as we waited for the main act to come back on. But let's keep this rolling. We're almost about. So I want to give one last thing. You mentioned it before. I talked about it in the beginning. So community, type in #impact, because to me, true success is not how much money and all that, but how many people are better off, right? We talked about. So here's a question for you, and then we're gonna bring it home. So can you share an example of a story? You're a storyteller, right? That not only inspired, but truly changed lives or perspectives, Dr. Elayna.
Well, thank you for asking that, and it's not going to be a story that is your typical painful story. It's actually a project that I heard about called the Significant Objects Program. And this was something that two gentlemen embarked on a journey to prove a point that storytelling matters. And actually, I want to say that 70% of learning is actually consumed through storytelling. And so just think about that. So these two gentlemen purchased 200 items. They spent $129 roughly in 200 just, little trinkets and things like that. They went to markets and thrift stores, and they just took little things that looked like they would be interesting, but they had zero value. $129 for $200, so you can do the math that it wasn't very expensive. They went to eBay to list these items. They made a whopping $8,000 because they added a made-up story.
Look at that.
To each item.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And so when I think about the Significant Objects Program project, I think about how we can add our story to something that is actually valuable, which is our business, our product, our ideas, the things that we want people to sign on to. We add a truthful story, doesn't have to be fictional.
Yep.
And basically that's what will happen. People will actually pay for it, actually find it meaningful, valuable, share it, promote it. And so if we want to think about the power of what we say, we want to always add a story, and we want to think about, what research shares, that when we add stories, they are 22% more memorable than facts and figures by themselves. So we can connect our facts and our figures with our storytelling to make it really meaningful, powerful, and shareable.
Love it. Wow. Yeah, like I said, we could go on forever. We got to close down things, but that phenomenal, Dr. Elayna. So I know you have an offer for our community. Can you just briefly tell them and then tell them how the best way to reach you as we close things down here, please?
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. And because I love storytelling and I love to highlight the painful stories, the vulnerable stories that shape us, I want everyone who's listening to go to the giftsofpain.com. And if they enter the code PASSION, they're going to have $200 off of being in the program, The Gifts of Pain, where they can learn to become authentic and strategic storytellers, and also be able to be featured in The Gifts of Pain. It's an international and award-winning series. And I'm just really excited to welcome all types of painful stories. And like Rob said, you have a story, no matter what that looks like. Let's not compare our pain. Let's actually share it so that we can all be empowered.
Love it. Appreciate that. And definitely community take advantage of that. And best way for our community to reach you, Dr. Elayna?
Yes, I mean, I love connecting with people online. As you can find me at The Positive Mom on any social media platform, Elayna Fernández on LinkedIn. And if you want to connect with my team, go to thepositivemom.com/EF. That's for Elayna Fernández.
Well, we appreciate you. God bless you. You did a great job today. Thank you for inspiring and bringing the light with your story. So appreciate you. Thank you. We're going to put you in the green room. Wow. Amazing. Well, if you're excited about that show, tune in next week, 238, November 19th, same back time, same bad channel. We're going to be talking to a couple, actually, Tony Elbert and Michael Carr, changing how you see, how you're seen. It's going to be a great show, so don't miss it. And then go to masterconnector.show to learn about other shows and also to be a sponsor and or speaker. But hey, listen, you know my co-host Rob G he's a brand builder, right? But he struggled for 2 years to become a very profitable until he discovered brand strategy. And then with only networking and LinkedIn, he 4 times his client fee without increasing the amount of time he put in. And that story and steps and a step-by-step strategy he shares in his upcoming book. Go Robbie G. Maybe you could put up a picture. There you go. His story and the step-by-step strategy he shares in the upcoming book, Don't Fear the Brand, The Art of Building a Strong Brand That Attracts. And I actually had the privilege of getting a preview of it. Amazing book. To me, nothing like anything I've ever read. Combined storytelling, his struggles, authenticity, along with a really good tangible thing. So don't mess it. Get involved in the book. And I know we're going long here, but it's been so worth it. And I want to close up with a quick story here. So make sure you can click on that. I think he's posting something in the chat. You can go and get it for 99 cents. You grab limited time and a bonus for clicking now. You'll receive Rob's quick strategy to build a strong brand, and go to buildstrongbrands.com, and you can get that by helping him out, because you want to get a copy of that as soon as possible, because we want to help him get to be a New York Times, New York Times bestseller too, but an Amazon bestseller as well. So anyway, finishing up here real quick. So Maya Angelou, one of the most powerful storytellers of her time, transformed her pain into poetry that healed millions. From a childhood marked by trauma and silence, she rose to use her voice as a beacon of hope, weaving truth, resilience, and grace into every word she spoke and wrote. Through her storytelling, she reminded the world that sharing our stories doesn't just free us, it lights the path for others to find their own voice and power. Folks, let's continue to tell our story, which will ultimately inspire people and eventually, which is the main thing, is that be that beacon of light. God bless, and see you next week.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.